Middlekauff! Hey!
Didn't Eminem have a song for this guy?
Guess who's back, back, back. I don't want to do copyright violation, but I know all the words.
I'm back. I'm back. Not in San Francisco, but I'm back.
Well, not yet, John. You closing the door on Brady to the Niners?
State income taxes, baby. 13-3 or 0. Hard to blame them.
The podcast is underway. We're recording this live on YouTube on a Sunday evening where moments ago Tom Brady shocked the internet by announcing that what we always knew, John, he would return. I have to admit to you, it never once occurred to me he'd be back on the Buccaneers this year.
A little inside the podcast, we were putting together a show. I thought it was a pretty fire show, and then you were explaining to me something, and I had Twitter open, and a Brady tweet popped up, and I read it, and I was a little shook, and you were talking. I completely did not hear a word you said, and I reread it, and what really threw me off were the pictures, because he had a picture of his squad and then a picture of his family, which is also his squad, all in Tampa jerseys. And it was like, I'm reading this. He says he's back, but it's not really registering, and it's pretty clear then he's back. Tom Favre. Tom Favre.
John, how about this? Great point by Marty on the stream. He says, I feel for the guy who paid like $500,000 for Brady's last touchdown. Yeah, that was like yesterday. $518,000 this guy paid for Tom Brady's last touchdown pass.
Remember we were talking, speaking of odds, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1, and the 49ers, I think are a little overvalued on the odds market, very similar to the Packers and the Rams. Just to me, they, with an unknown at quarterback, or at least until Brady had committed, the Bucs, were pretty good value. They were not near the top because it felt like, old Tommy, if he was going to come back, he was going to head back home. I'm coming home, or take me home, country roads, John Denver style. But it turns out that that's not the case, and Tom Brady's back to Tampa, and they're going to win that division with their fucking eyes closed. MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1. So if you want to gamble on future Super Bowl odds, MyBookie.ag, promo code HAM1, get your gamble on.
Go get it. You can also decline the bonus. Either way, HAM1, let them know we sent you. But right now, here's what you do with the MyBookie bracket contest for a chance to win a Bitcoin, a Doodle NFT, currently valued at over $50,000. And over $100,000 or more in cash prizes. Go to mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1, and get in the MyBookie bracket contest. Sign up today. When you use that HAM1 code, when you make your first deposit, you get a free entry into the My Bracket contest. Selections officially begin as we record this Sunday, as we're live on YouTube, Sunday, March 13th, and close March 17th at 9 a.m. Pacific. Noon Eastern. So get that deposit in now so you can secure that free entry for the NCAA tournament.
Are you looking forward to watching Crime TV, True TV, and all the other channels that you haven't touched in 12 months?
Yes, it is. Versus are we still getting any games on Versus?
Yeah, Versus, MTV 7, True 7, I'm mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. You're a big talker into it. I've actually learned to talk a little bit into it. Still uncomfortable
True TV.
with AI.
That's all I do. I just say True TV.
I actually had the thought. I had a little edible last
Channel
night.
748.
And I was watching Kanye at the Laker game or somewhere. Of course, Antonio Brown. And he wears that ski mask.
Yeah.
And I did wonder, like, he's run in some elite circles if he knows, they're taking face recognition. Like, he just knows some stuff and he's trying to hide his face. I don't know. It's like, why would he wear that thing?
Oh. Did he maybe, cut himself?
No, I mean, everywhere you go, they're just taking your face recognition, all this AI stuff. I just get uncomfortable with just every step we take makes it easier. Like, I don't do talk to text. Yeah. I whenever I see someone doing that, it's like, use your fucking fingers.
You're too young.
You talk to text.
I talk to text sometimes, yeah, because I get tired of it. Anyway, that's not what anybody's here for right now. I was watching a basketball show the other day, and there's an old guy walking in the background of the studio of the Pac-12 Network show. You could just see him talking into his, I will be on the concourse behind 132 in 5 minutes. See you there. And it's always to do old text. You got to text with only one. You got to stab the phone with one finger. That's the key.
Yeah, that's an old person. I'm a better texter. I'm just incredibly quick. I'm not, typing. I'm probably like a 4 out of 10.
TC on the stream says, "This is some crazy shit, y'all."
It is.
This show also brought to you by Manscaped. Oh, hello. Whoa, what do you got there, John?
That's what we call manscaped.com, promo code HAM. We call this thing the Weed Whacker guy. And as you can see, if you're watching on the stream, I'm bald. Bald as a bat. I've never actually held a bat or really seen a bat up close, but I guess they're bald. And this Weed Whacker, you get nose hairs. You know, I may not have hair on my head, but I have hairs coming out of my nose that are so long, and that's where this thing, the Weed Whacker, manscaped.com, promo code HAM, comes through. How do you beat it, guy?
You don't, John. What you do is you join them. You don't beat them, you join them in this case. Lawnmower 4.0, the wireless charging system, right? The convenient dock. You just boop, boop, and off you go. Electromagnetic induction, John. It is just what Tom Brady put into the world. Wow, that is quite a battle you got going on there. The battle was won by the Weed Whacker.
No ripping. You don't even feel it. It's like, boop.
That was you. This was like an infomercial. Is what?
No, it's fantastic. You're welcome, Manscaped. We're just
yep,
pushing your
20% off, free shipping, push product. Code HAM at manscaped.com. Code HAM at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence. Always use the right tools for the job. Manscaped. Promo code HAM. Now, before we dive into, by the way, okay. Somebody on the stream. I always try to do a little research if something seems a little fishy. But with this one, I'm going to need to crowdsource this. Michael on the stream says that Scott Pioli on NFL Network just said, quote, something tells me Tom's 2022 season won't be in Tampa. It's alive, John. It is alive. What is that?
Is the first move?
Is that true?
Is the first move doing an announcement, I'm coming back before you do your power play? Because I don't know about your direct messages, but I feel like I got a lot of them that mentioned he wasn't just like the video that went viral that like no one could even, it wasn't even arguable that it was like, this guy ain't fucking retired. That the face he made Cristiano Ronaldo. For those that can't see, the face says it all. Now, you know who owns that soccer team would be the owners of the Glazers. And anyone who, you want to do a business deal, listen, I know Zoom's a poppin'. We're on a little app called the StreamYard. You can Skype it. There is nothing like multi-million-dollar businesses seeing face-to-face, spending time with someone else. And it's a double whammy, right? You get credit like, fly the private jet, take the kids. You get to go to some EPL game. It's all fun and games. And you get to negotiate like, hey, my pushback would be, is he going to announce he's coming back to Tampa and then bolt? Wouldn't that be a little weird? That'd be very Favrean. Like he said, I'm coming back to Tampa, in Tampa.
In Tampa with his family in Bucks jerseys. So we got to take him we have to take when a person says I'm going to play my 23rd season in Tampa, we have to take that to mean he's going to play his 23rd season in Tampa.
If he had just said like, listen, I've done a lot of thinking, I'm coming back, and that was the tweet, I think we would be off and running and we would spend the next hour talking about Tom Brady to San Francisco. But I can't do that right now. I want it to happen. I hope that he does a power play, but he like the family video, the pictures.
Michael on the stream says my sources might be wrong. All right, well, that's why you don't, But Tom Brady says these past 2 months I've realized my place is still on the field, not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates and I love my supportive family. They make it all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business. LFG.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of could he be traded for Jimmy Garoppolo? We've said over and over, Bruce Arians is not coaching Jimmy Garoppolo. Whether Tom was playing or not, Jimmy Garoppolo does not fit the style of offense in which he dreams of playing again, because at the end of the day, for as great as Tom is, and Bruce knows it, he is not a dink and dunk guy. He was fired in Pittsburgh for making Roethlisberger throw too deep. He had a lot of success with Carson Palmer throwing bombs. And even Jameis. Remember the year Jameis threw all the pick sixes? They were letting it rip down the field.
Right. Threw a lot of touchdowns that year, too.
Yeah. Nothing like the 30-30 club.
So
didn't he enter that? Like it was like 33 touchdowns and 31 picks.
Yep.
It was the pick sixes that he had. I mean, he almost had 10 pick sixes. I think he legitimately had 6 or 7.
First of all, I'm thrilled. I love watching Tom Brady. It's one more team that's worth watching, and Brady's worth watching. I think we watched a lot of what he had to say. The thing you kept coming back to was, would he really make his dad do that farewell crying? And my belief the whole time was like, I don't think he retired with the intent to come back. You read that Belichick Brady book by Wickersham, and there's obviously Giselle has a big influence. And he retired. Even his initial retirement, like week, was like, these are not the things that a person who is hard and fast retired says. Kind of weird that he could have just taken the time without retiring, right? He could have just taken the time without retiring, but he retired.
Well, I listen, I do respect this. There was kind of a finite time. Like we kept saying like, oh, will he play for $2 million? Like he ain't playing for $2 fucking million. So part of coming back right now is like, well, listen, I'm still taking discounts, but I'm playing for 25. I ain't playing for 1. It's like, could he come back on the vet minimum? It's why the Niners thing, it has to happen now. He's not playing for the 49ers. One, I mean, it doesn't look like he is at all. But if it was going to happen, it was going to happen this week. Because he wouldn't just, like, come for $2 million. Not when you're, like, I don't care who you are. Like, you want to do what you want to do. There is still a baseline of money that it costs for his services when you're playing at his level. You know, that's why, I remember we had kind of brought it up. You had mentioned, like, could he, that the money's not going to be an issue. I think looking back, like, it had to happen now.
Definitely for the Bucks too, right? Maybe the Bucks had given him not a hard deadline. You would take Tom back whenever, but it's like, Tom, if you're thinking about it, doing it in 3 weeks is going to really put us in a bad spot.
But even if you are going to push the envelope on, because I do think it would be insane if in like 2 days, like Tom's pushing for a trade to San Francisco, like that would be a whole story on itself.
Yeah.
You have to do that now when they have their money available once they trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Like it's not possible when they don't have any money left because all the money right now, it's like this team has X. It's all fake, right? At any moment they can cut guys, they can restructure. It doesn't matter, but it does matter come like April 5th. Once we have $7 million left to sign our draft class. Now I guess you could always cut a guy on your roster at that time, but that's ideally not what you want to do. Like you're cutting the guys right now you want to cut. And the other thing is like it's hard to just get $20 million worth of cap space out of nowhere.
Right,
to trade for Tom's salary. So it is possible now, I would say. Again, he would have to do it in an about face. Like he's just cool with Arians. Like, is that a story that's going to come out? They've had long talks over the last couple weeks. They've hashed some things out. Because I watched Andrew, what's his name? The little guy for NFL Network, Siciliano. Yeah, tweeted out the video of him talking to Arians about if Tom wanted to come back in August, and he was like, that's not the Tom Brady I know. He wouldn't do that to us. Maybe he already knew. They're like, hey, I'll let you know for sure come this week. Because that's just the way to do business. Like there are timelines in any business, and this is a clear timeline that's today, right? Tomorrow.
Right.
And really Wednesday, but like this next 48
9 a.m. Monday is when the legal tampering, what it means. I mean, agents can start talking to teams 9 a.m. Monday.
Isn't it what made the Rodgers request last year on draft day so stupid? It's like, bro, you could have got a lot more headway if you would have made this 3 weeks before.
Totally.
Now, it all kind of worked out for him, but there's timing to all this stuff around these enormous dates, and I respect Brady. Like, Tom knows that, understands it. Aaron finally did this year, right? It's like, hey, Aaron. Now, who knows? Like, would the Packers, even if he would have said it like at the April 1st, they probably would have done nothing.
Right. I mean, we all buy things on the internet and then return them, and sometimes you return them with 29 days into the 30-day return window. Sometimes you forget to return them and try to convince people to take things back, and that's a much harder sell. And Tom,
have you ever pulled that off?
I don't think I have. I did get like an AT&T rewards card one day after I was supposed to be, like you call, I have AT&T, can I get my $100 reward card as part of the sign up? And I told them that I'd been on hold for an hour and a half the day before on the 30th day. And so they gave it to me on day 31. So
is that true?
Yeah, it was true. But Tom, you're right. Tom knew that this was the last day of his return policy. Now they would have taken him back later, but he would have only been hurting himself to come back to the Bucs in 2 months, right? Because we would have been hurting the Bucs. And just a single word in there, the fact that he says Tampa, if he did not have the word Tampa in there, which the word Tampa is not like the word and, like the word Tampa is a very specific element of this tweet, then I think this would be a 49ers story. It's not a 49ers story, other than it's the NFC. But Jimmy Garoppolo was not a Bucs destination.
And they don't play Tampa, right, during the season.
Not to the conference championship game.
Yeah, so I do think that it definitely impacts the NFC immediately. But I also think it impacts one reason also you let it be known, like they immediately become the Miami Heat with LeBron. Like guys want to go play with Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Like, I do think Tom Brady has more cachet, and part of it is where he plays. But Boston didn't have the tax benefits that Tampa does, and people used to go to Patriots nonstop. A huge part of it, right, is a double whammy. I get to play with Tom, and I think I get to win when I go to play with Tom.
Yep.
And the other thing now in Tampa, and someone can say now Tampa, like, hey, you could make $7 million going to play for the Rams. We'll pay you $5 million. You make the fucking same money when the bill comes due.
Yeah, or we'll pay you
$7
million.
Is real. Yeah,
or we'll pay you $7 million. So, wow, incredible.
Yeah,
incredible. Again, it's just a weird story in some ways, John, because I'm not knock my socks off stunned that Tom is back, especially like you said earlier after we saw the video of him talking to Ronaldo the other day. I mean, it's really hard to deny. We love being body language doctors. We all do. It's not that hard on the Tom Ronaldo video. And maybe that reaction was not, you know what I think that reaction now was in hindsight from Brady? That reaction was not, I don't know what I'm going to do. That reaction is, I already know, and the Bucs already know, but I don't know if I should share it with Ronaldo on this video that someone's filming. You know what I mean?
What?
Like he said, like what he wanted to say right there was
but that was he posted that. That was his.
No, I understand. I just think it's one of those like, fuck it. Should I tell Ronaldo? Like, is Ronaldo going to leak it to Schefter? You know what I mean? I think that's what that reaction was like. He was about to lie to Ronaldo, and he didn't want to lie to Ronaldo after Ronaldo just signed something for his kid, and he had to lie to Ronaldo because he had just talked to the Glazers and said, "I'm coming back."
Like when Kevin used to snap at Sherwood Strauss. Like he knew he was leaving, but he also didn't want to give a little different relationship. Like Kevin, I don't think liked anyone in there. I think those two guys are, mutual respect for greatness.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have been funny if he would have like, I'm returning, and then he hashtag gas prices, hashtag inflation, hashtag I need the cash? Would people got to laugh? I think it would have been funny.
I think sometimes Tom has a good sense of humor. I think there are some things with him that he probably doesn't, that he takes very seriously,
Football's one of them.
I bet this was really hard. Yeah, I mean, football, I bet this was really stressful for him to retire and then want to be the guy that was retired, but then just not be able to do it. Or to say I'm retired when he knew in that moment, I don't really want to do this.
Breaking news, Kirk Cousins just got an extension.
I know. I was going to work that in as well. We can get to that.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like at the end of the day, the NFL for his free agency and all this stuff, like it is driven by quarterbacks. And listen, Cousins is like in the middle tier, but like that's what people care about. And it's people always like, hey, Middlekauff, what's your take on? I don't give a fuck about your right tackle. Like I don't care. And one thing I know about free agency, it's fun, like names move, but for the most part, like the quarterback movement in the NFL for the first time really has started to make this kind of feel like some of the other sports because they are by far the most famous people. Right now, some other stars historically, like Khalil Mack's been traded, Amari got traded, like that happens too, but there is nothing like quarterback news. Like that is, they're in their own tier from football. And obviously Tom is in his own tier as just a human being with like 5 other athletes in the world. But I just mean like, this has been a pretty, and it will with Jimmy and Deshaun, like there's a lot going on with quarterback stuff. Derek Buzz, like to me, that's what makes this next couple days so kind of cool is like just people on their toes about quarterbacks. Like at the end of the day, I'm just sorry. Like Bobby Wagner signs, that's cool, but it's like whatever. Like fucking let me know when the season comes and he makes some tackles.
How about the numbers on Kirk? He's going to make $40 million now in 2022. Like, can you take 38 from the Raiders if you're Derek? $55 million payable by next March and a no trade clause, says Pelissaro.
Guy, he's gotten multiple people in Minnesota talk so much shit about this guy, and everyone keeps talking about it. This is his second extension. Now, this is a shorter extension, but so $60 million was his, $66 million was the last extension. What was this? 35. So he basically got 100. He's made like $186 million being there.
Well, no one has had a career like this guy ever, right? This is
what people
Tim
do not
Lincecum
think he's good and will make $250 million.
Well, I just mean massive 1-year contract, 2-year contracts. This is what Tim Lincecum wanted to do, and it didn't work. Remember?
Because he got shitty.
Yeah, but Tim wasn't a quarterback. There's a big difference.
I think they're going to make the playoffs next year or compete to make the playoffs. I mean, who knows? They got a new coach, but like, Sam Bradford made $100 million. Now, I think what's different with Sam Bradford and Cousins, Sam didn't play that much after a while. Like ultimately, Cousins has played a shitload, right? I view Cousins at least has earned some of his money, right? He throws a bunch of touchdowns. He's thrown like 100 touchdowns the last 3 years. You know, it's not like say this for Cousins, he leaves something to be desired, but at least he does produce, right?
Bradford's rookie deal was $78 million. His rookie deal. Yeah. Then he made 36 from the Eagles and another 20 from the Cardinals.
Remember when they signed him 1 year 20 and then they drafted Rosen?
Yeah, so there you go. That's 98 plus 36. So he made over 100.
Yeah.
But
he stole, like to me, Cousins isn't stealing as much as he's just overpaid. Right?
Right.
I mean, Cousins would start on what, 20 teams maybe not 20, but 14 teams easily.
Cousins is like the not the worst house in a good neighborhood, but just a solid home in an amazing neighborhood.
Well, let's just say Kirk Cousins' money didn't mean anything. Was on the 49ers. He just became available. Niners signed him. And it's Kirk Cousins and Trey Lance. Who starts week 1 for the 49ers?
Week 1? Who starts for the next 3 years? Kirk Cousins?
No, I'm just saying, like, Kirk Cousins would start this season if he was on the 49ers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's right. No one would want that.
He would be better in camp. Put it that way, right? He'd be better in, like, he would win the job, quote unquote, unless you just wanted to go with the young guy, which sometimes teams do.
Yeah.
But yeah, to complete the point you're making. So, I mean, Tom, by the way, wasn't in San Mateo the other day to meet with Kyle. Maybe he was just there to talk over retirement with his parents. Maybe that's what that trip was about.
Who knows?
That was last Monday, right? Last Monday or Tuesday? Last Tuesday. Because he said it on his shows on Mondays, right?
Yeah, maybe you're right. Is that when he talked to Freddie Couples? Was it last week?
Oh, I'm sorry. He didn't say it on his show. So maybe it was. I had it in my head. He had said it to Jim Gray. You're right. He said
I thought it's like 2 weeks. I thought it's like 2 weeks ago now.
Okay.
But I could be it's all kind of running together. I got a text right before we hopped on and the news broke. Is there a chance that Kyle snubbed him again? If they met, is there
People
a chance
are wondering.
that he didn't kiss the rings? He didn't kiss the rings. If that gets out, it will not be. Derek Papa's already like, oh, what about everyone saying he's gonna go to the 49ers? What about? It's like, God, you guys Raider fans. I mean, fuck. You guys are exhausting. Just be happy.
But this is what I would tell you about people to get mad at Twitter. Just don't look at those. Don't acknowledge that part of the conversation.
I know, but it's just so like
just be
so
thrilled that you took Maxx Crosby to the woodshed.
I know.
Took advantage of Maxx Crosby. But yeah, I mean, I would find it hard to believe they would meet with Tom again and not do what was necessary to get him. But I did, from a 49ers standpoint, yes, it did cross my mind. When Tom retired, that meant the Niners missed out on 2 years of Tom Brady when they chose Jimmy Garoppolo over him. Now they've missed out on 3 years of Tom Brady, right? Like, the longer Tom Brady plays, that is what the Niners passed on when they watched the film and decided they'd rather have Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's a good point.
So, That's just the reality of it.
They made a decision, and felt a little bit better after this year. It did not look good in 2020. I wouldn't say justified, because again, if they could do it over again, the answer, there is no decision to be made, right? But you don't get do-overs in life. I do think you at least can hold your head high after this season, but it continues. Like, you still get judged on it. Like you said, we thought it was over, and if he is truly coming back to Tampa, which take the guy at face value, you get judged again this year, right? Can you make the playoffs? Because here's who I know is making the playoffs if Tom plays 17 games. Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lock, right? I'd even say he plays over like 12 games, they'd feel like a lock, right? Because they're winning 9 of the 12, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just like Tampa's the heavy favorite to win that division. I mean, the Saints don't have a quarterback. Panthers are a fucking joke. Who has the other team in that division? Falcons? I mean, give me a break. You could say that just based on route, Tampa and Green Bay, just how bad their divisions are, should be about the same, 6-7-1 to win the NFC. Is that fair?
I mean, who out of the NFC North and the NFC South? So the four you mentioned, plus Green Bay, plus Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit. If we say Green Bay and Tampa are going to the playoffs, who's the next team? Like you said, I agree with you. Minnesota's probably the next team, but it's hard to know. I mean, Kevin O'Connell.
See what happens with the Saints quarterback, because their roster is good. But again, Dennis Allen's been a coach one time, and it was a complete embarrassment. Now, I think him and his family and his representation would be like, did you see who we were fucking playing with? And you'd be like, yeah, I did. You have some merit there, right?
Yeah.
But he just, we're depending on some coaches. Kevin O'Connell's never coached a game. Dennis Allen's been a coach once, and it was awful. Matt Rule is completely over his head. Atlanta, Arthur Smith might be good, but their team just sucks. Detroit is just, they have no talent. Chicago, they're blowing it up. You could argue that, like, between the next Green Bay and Tampa, I mean, it's pretty shitty. You would just take the Saints. They do have just a lot of core guys. But, I mean, is Kamara going to get suspended for 4 games after beating the shit out of that guy? I don't know. You'd think. Like, he beat him up. Like, that happened. Right. It doesn't feel like Kamara's a lock to get at minimum 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Ridley's gone, but he missed a lot
I just think I like to look at it even less divisionally and just more from a conference standpoint, right? With 7 playoff teams, that last year it felt like for most of the year there were like 5 really good teams in the NFC. And it felt like you eliminated one, and it was going to be just be solid from a Trey Lance standpoint, just be solid. And you're a playoff team, right? And maybe that still applies for the Niners this year. Just be solid, Trey Lance, and you can be a playoff team. But it just takes out just a little margin for error. If you said, because I would say, if we talk about it from a conference standpoint, not a divisional standpoint, then it's Green Bay got Rodgers back. Tampa got Brady back. The Rams, I think just having won the championship is only going to be good for Matthew Stafford.
And brought the band back. They're all coming back. They've all announced, basically, right?
So, that's, it's now 7 teams, so that's not half the NFC, but now there's 4 spots. Okay. What happens with Seattle is a really, really, it becomes a bigger deal now that the NFC got a little tougher. Is it Deshaun or is it not? That's a huge deal for Seattle. Does Arizona figure it out with Kyler? It's a huge deal.
I think Jeremy Fowler, but I think a couple people have alluded to this. Seattle did not view Drew Lock as a throw-in. They plan on starting him.
Okay. So, again, I don't want to say, if I really think about it, it's easy to say this puts more pressure on Trey Lance. I don't think that this particular thing does. Although in some ways you could say at least for 1 week it does, because they play each other. And now Tampa, San Francisco is pointed out on the stream, like Buck and Aikman, Peyton and Eli. They're going to be $60 million of broadcasters broadcasting that game on Monday Night Football.
Niners play Tampa this year?
Niners play Tampa this year in San Francisco.
That'll be a big fucking game.
So, or Santa Clara, right?
Yeah.
So you Buck, Aikman, Eli, Peyton. Eli and Peyton might come on site for that game. Well, probably not, but it's like $60 million of broadcasters, John. It's a big booth.
It really is.
A big booth. Hey, Greasy's going to be there. So it's perfect.
Oh, my God.
So, I guess, does it put more pressure on Trey? No, but for that day it does. because you don't think on the list of games Tom Brady wants to win, we could probably rank them at some point, but that one's going to be really, really, really high.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets
For him.
I'd say their Rams games are up there, but that to me, his return. Has Tom Brady ever played at Levi Stadium? I don't think he has. I mean, obviously he's never played at Levi's, but has he ever played? Maybe when we were in college or whatever, he might have played a Candlestick. But when I think of the Niners playing New England, the last decade, the 2 times they played him, in the 8-year rotations were both the Harbaugh game was there. Remember the shitty weather game?
Yep.
And then Kyle, they played them, the Cam Newton team, and beat the shit out of them. Remember there? Mm-hmm. So that's the 2 games over the last decade.
Yeah.
I don't know the previous decade. I don't know if he has. But I think the rotations.
He played at Levi's, George said. You remember that game? What was that game? Brady.
New England?
I mean, it would be kind of crazy, right, that he played in the league that long and never played a game at the Niners, but what?
Tom Sula? Chip Kelly?
Gabbert. He played. Chris says Ali says Chip was the coach. It was against Gabbert in 2016. Rainy game.
I don't remember that, but I don't remember the Chip Kelly era really at all.
2016.
Remove that from my memory.
Let's check his game log from 2016 real quick here. Appreciate you. I like a good crowdsource research. Patriots won 40-24. Brady threw four touchdowns, 280 yards passing. Niners fell to 1-9, John, after that game, and the Patriots improved to 8-2 after that win. Well, I got Kaepernick here. Kaepernick 16 of 30 for 206, 2 touchdowns, no picks, took 5 sacks. LeGarrette Blount.
If you put a gun to my head, I wouldn't.
Marmar says played a Candlestick in 05.
Can you name one moment of that Chip Kelly, Belichick, 49er Brady game? I couldn't name you a play, a tackle. I mean, my memory, and I remember some random things. I must have been zoned out on that bad boy.
That could have been mid radio transition. I mean, I know it was.
Yeah, but we did podcasts during then.
No, I know. I don't. Somebody said he played a Candlestick 05. I don't.
Yeah, like I said, he might have played in the 2000s, but who cares?
So, this one is the first time he's played for the 49ers since the Niners said, "No, thank you, Tom. We don't want you to be our quarterback."
Yeah, he's gonna be pissed off on that one.
He's gonna.
He's just your classic. He does the Michael Jordan, right? Which is healthy. Just try to create motivation.
Yep.
Most of the greats do. And it's an easy one because it literally happened. Kyle said, no, we're sticking with Mr. Jimmy.
This is the man who cried about being 199 long after he became the superstar that is Tom Brady. So while some people have put some things behind him, Tom ain't one of them.
It was a long day. Remember when he said he went on a walk with his dad?
Which day was you talking about? The retirement day?
No, I'm talking about when he fell in the draft.
Oh, the 199, yeah.
And he was talking to Steve. He was like, it was a long day. And he started crying.
Yeah.
And it is. Can you imagine if you are waiting to be picked? Me and you tune out the third day. Can you imagine just waiting? You're like, this takes forever. You'd be emotional. I understand where he's coming from there. You're just driving yourself nuts watching that fucking boring thing.
Who was the one I watched the other day? A guy that went undrafted. What was I watching? Was it? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. So I guess there's no more debate. You and I had the debate. Some people thought we were crazy. Some people thought we were over the top. We did not. We still held on. Could Tom be a 49er? Trey Lance's team now. I mean, that part of it's done, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's been Trey Lance's team unless Tom wanted to come here, right?
Yeah, I mean, Trey Lance's team I'm talking John Middlekauff and Guy Haberman's mind. I think I am now announcing to the world. I was 98% Trey Lance's team. Now it is 100% Trey Lance's team because I did keep 2% for Tom Brady. Not everybody did, but I did.
Agreed.
And you did.
I did too.
And I don't
feel bad about it either. No.
Nope. And I saw that video and I was like, holy smokes. Yeah. I feel great about it.
I'd go 99.9% Trey Lance's team. I'm still holding out a little hope he pulls a power move, but not feeling great about the power move that's going to be played.
Good point.
I don't think it's likely, but listen, we live in a world where every single smart human, whether it's sports, whether it's fucking politics, whether it's whatever, never say never. You never know, Don't feel great about it. Don't feel good about it at all. I don't think it's likely. I don't expect it to happen. But if you tell me like Tuesday morning, there's a story that like, they've had some discussions and things are getting weird. It's like, you never know. I'm ready. I'm got my my head on a swivel.
Yeah. He is back, John. He's unretiring, so that's significant. Nick says, well, they can't meet with Tom until tomorrow. That would be tampering. Maybe he has to say Tampa to prevent any tampering charges for the 49ers.
They are not allowed to meet with him regardless, right? Unless they ask Tampa.
That's right.
That's right. He's a member of another team, so it'd be like they're not allowed to meet with fucking Aaron Rodgers either.
To me, actually, you could meet with him when he's retired. Like, there's no rules about retired players, are there?
Well, you see the video that Debo had lunch with Mike McDaniel?
Yeah.
And I thought, like,
with the fingers crossed emoji.
There's two things, right? You just like, well, this isn't 1987. Relationships are, not that there weren't good relationships in the 80s, but that would be now. Granted, there was no social media or whatever, but if like a newspaper picture of like a player under contract with another coach that he used to know, like that wouldn't fly with Belichick. And I had the thought, like, listen, I think Kyle and Mike clearly are really, really close. And Mike McDaniel's just really, really close with this group of players, right? Like they have really good relationships. We've talked to Juszczyk about it. The offensive guys, like they spend a lot of time with Mike McDaniel, especially if you're in the running. I could also think if I'm Kyle, like, you're gone now, bro. You don't eat with my player, But then I thought, like, is that old school? Like, I don't even know. I could see both sides. If you told me Kyle was like, yeah, I don't feel that comfortable with that happening. If you told me like, I don't give a shit, he's not going. It's like we're gonna sign him. Where's he gonna go?
I think that can be uncomfortable when the relationship is kind of in the middle. If Kyle's extremely comfortable with Debo, then I think it can work. Now, they got to pay him, right? Like, what happened at that dinner? Did Debo say, Mike, man, I'll tell you what, man, if this thing doesn't work out, you come get me. I'll come play for you. I would love to play for you one day. We talked about how we'd love to work together one day. It can work depending on Kyle's relationship with Debo, because Debo would be like, are you really, like, just imagine the scenario where Kyle texts Debo, like, hey, man, what are you doing? Debo's like, living my adult life. What are you talking about?
See, I don't feel he texts Debo. I think
he texts Mike.
No, he texts Mike like, bro, this shit ain't allowed anymore. Again, that's I don't know that I could just see if that happened. It would be I would understand, like, hey man, I guess we're cordial friends, but we're now I think it's also easier when the guy's with the Miami Dolphins. If I told you he was the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals or the Seattle Seahawks, I don't think that would be allowed, right? Or it would be like, if you're Kyle, like, bro, you're not allowed to do this anymore.
Yeah. I could see Debo was like, hey, man, I haven't seen you since you got the job. Would love to take you. We got to get together one last time.
I think he's got a pad in Miami.
Yeah.
Debo does. So it's like, it crossed my mind. I wonder if, Kyle's a little pissed.
Did Kyle make a comment like he made when he walked into the room and all the coaches were sitting around and Mike LaFleur said something snarky about Matt LaFleur? Matt LaFleur said something about Mike LaFleur with Robert Saleh on the phone. Remember that whole conversation?
But what if he does like a text McDaniel WTF and McDaniel's like, bro, I don't work. You don't sign my checks anymore, right? I don't answer to you.
He never signed.
I answered to Steven. I answered to Stephen Ross, and if he offered me $100,000 to lose, I'd say, Steven, I'll lose for you.
Was that lunch with Debo on Stephen Ross's boat in the marina?
That's a good question. When I saw he was eating a cheeseburger, it actually made me kind of hungry.
Yeah, same. John, before we go any further, you know what I'm hungry for? Just great quality.
Oh
my God. I am so excited about this. When this sponsorship with Buck Mason, you got the sweatpants on? Is that what you got on? When this sponsorship with Buck Mason for the pod came through, I got so excited. I'm already a user. I'm already a wearer. And so are you now. BuckMason.com/ham. Get you a free t-shirt. And let me tell you something, Middlekauff. These are very, very high-quality T-shirts. I already had Buck Mason tees. I actually had these long-sleeve kind of double slub sweatshirts that they actually don't sell anymore. I have two of them. I wear them all the time. You can check the tape. I'm in a lot of these videos wearing those sweatshirts. I got
You had that
those.
sweatshirt you're wearing right now before they even sent these to us?
No. I had some other long sleeves. Not the hooded ones, they don't sell the other long sleeves that I had. Multiple t-shirts that I have. I got receipts, and I'll show you the receipts. I had not gotten the Pima t-shirt until I got this Pima t-shirt that I'm wearing right now.
Oh.
And Pima is this cotton material that is so soft, it's so smooth, it's comfortable enough to just chill in, but it's also nice enough that if you want to go out with it, it looks super clean. Very important to me, extremely important on a t-shirt. The most important thing on a t-shirt, the neckline. Can I wash it and not get my neck looking all scrimpy and scraggly and shit? And this one, it stays clean, doesn't stretch. The color is beautiful. Big fan. We're actually both wearing the brushed loop back hooded sweatshirt right now.
Oh,
here's the deal, John. You go to buckmason.com/ham. And what do you get?
Guy, once you try Buck Mason, they'll become your go-to. Like I said, head over to buckmason.com/ham. Get a free t-shirt with your first order. buckmason.com/ham to get a free t-shirt with your first order. buckmason.com/ham. Again, I'm wearing the full sweatsuit. The sweatpants are very, very comfortable. I can't recommend them enough. The sweatshirts, you were right. You told me when I was doing our order, when they were going to get some, you're like, get a sweatshirt. Those things are sweet.
Yep.
I might, once the sun comes out, wear my t-shirt, out and about with the ladies. Looks good.
I'm telling you, you absolutely could wear this t-shirt on a date because it's a clean looking t-shirt. They've got, if you want the curved hem, if you want the straight hem, if you want the V-neck, if you want the Henley, they got all of it. I would say the hoodie, what I love about this hoodie is it's hard to find. I get hot, I get cold. It's hard to get your temperature right. Like if I was super rich and I would be the guy that has my driver keep the car at a certain temperature, and they'd be like, this prima donna always got to be at 68. But if I was powerful enough to do it, I would do it. This thing is so good because this brushed, you probably can't really see it on the video, but it's not too thick that I get really hot in it. It's not too thick that I can't throw a jacket over it if it's cold, but it's also warm enough that it's just perfect for a cool day. And they got a bunch of great colors. So buckmason.com/ham, all the t-shirts. I mean, so many different color options, hoodies. They got slub tees. I highly recommend the Pima. I think it's a great shirt. And right now, no matter what you get a free t-shirt. You can just buy a t-shirt and get another free t-shirt. You get 2 t-shirts for the price of one. If that's what you want.
Go check it out. buckmason.com/ham.
Welcome to the podcast, Buck Mason. We always appreciate when you guys support our sponsors, and I can speak. I was wearing this stuff before they started giving us money, and now they're giving us money and free hoodies, and I couldn't be happier about it, John.
Let's do it.
What were we going to talk about next?
Well, the Tom Brady news happened, and we were planning on talking about the dominoes that the most important people this week are the quarterbacks, like I mentioned. But really, there's 2 guys that are truly available beside, some of these random free agents like Mariota and stuff. Deshaun Watson, and then who's clearly better than Jimmy, younger than Jimmy. Now, he's way more expensive than Jimmy, but he's way better, so no one cares. His legalities, again, I'm not a lawyer, but no criminal charges. Still has to fight civil cases and some other stuff, but no criminal charges. That much is clear. Aaron Wilson, and to me, I think teams that would be interested in Jimmy, clearly, the Saints, which are interested in Jimmy, are trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. Well, if they don't get Deshaun Watson, they don't have a quarterback guy. Like, Jameis Winston is a free agent, and he's coming back off a torn ACL. Aaron Wilson just tweeted this 35 minutes ago. The Texans still want a package of 3 first-round picks, other draft capital, and players in exchange for Watson. So I kind of think what he's saying is like, you see what they got for Russell? The 2 1s, 2 2s, and 3 players. And really, 2 of them are starters. Shelby Harris, immediate starter. Noah Fant, immediate starter. And say what you want about Drew Lock. It just gives you an extra quarterback that has played in the NFL. It's not, I don't like him like Seattle likes him, but he's a backup quarterback. That's a lot. They're asking for the same package, but with an extra 1. And for as great as he is, given what he just went through, and I know his agents tweeting, pumping their chests, like it's still like a little bit like it's a little weird, but it is what it is. I do wonder if teams, if he had no issues off the field, I think he would get a historic package, right? Because I think DJ was saying this on his podcast, and he's right. Like, we make such a big deal over like Russell Wilson trade or whenever Deshaun's ultimately traded. The Niners just traded 3 1s and a 3 for Trey Lance, right? For an unknown. We see it in the draft. I mean, Someone listed the other day all the picks Carson Wentz has been traded for in his life. It's kind of crazy, right? Because the Eagles traded up to get him. Then the Eagles traded him for a 1, and then he was just traded for a 3rd that might become a 2. Like, if you just add it up, I think it was like 3 1s, 2 2s, and potentially 3 3. I mean, it's an astronomical amount of picks. And obviously, like 80% of those go back to when he was unknown coming out of college. So we'll see, man. I think these two guys are going to get traded in the next 24 hours, 48 hours. Like, these guys are, I think both guys, well, Jimmy for sure. I guess I could see some teams having some reservations on Deshaun, right? Because it's not all over. Like, he's still fighting civil cases. But if I was a betting man, I'd say both these guys are on new teams by the start of free agency, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, especially because Garoppolo, you feel like they need that money off of their books so they can start spending money, hopefully, on Wednesday, right? For the Niners
Same with
specifically.
Texans, that's $35 million, right?
Yeah, that's true. Now, yeah, you're right. The Texans, it used to be less. That's the other thing with them. It used to be less money. Like, his cap hit last year was $15 million, Deshaun's. So, like, to keep Deshaun on their roster last year was much cheaper than it is to do it right now. He goes from a $15 million cap hit last year to a $40 million cap hit this year, which is a lot of cap to carry around. But it's not that much for if you think you get a star quarterback. That's what Kirk Cousins cost you, right?
And didn't last year, is he on the team last year if they had to pay him $35 million? Because remember, they only had to actually pay him $10 million.
$10 million bucks. Yeah,
I wonder if he's on the team at $35 million. I doubt it.
Austin says the PR situation is still a lot to swallow. I mean, look, ultimately, he was not charged on Friday. He still faces 22 separate lawsuits, civil suits.
A lot.
Yeah, which is an astronomical amount. But we've seen it time and time again. Teams consistently show they don't care if you're guilty. They don't care if you're innocent. They just care what is the legal punishment you are facing. And then they can take whatever league punishment you're facing, right? What now? Is the league going to suspend him for a year? Okay, if that's going to happen, I'm not trading 4-1s. Are they going to suspend him for 4 games? 4 games are over so fast that won't make a team blink. And I think at this point, teams now just go, it's open season on the acquisition. Mary Kay wrote the Browns have been doing the due diligence. The Panthers, this is what Jeremy Fowler wrote. I'm told the Panthers have been extremely aggressive in their effort to get him. And they could be a team to watch. They've done extensive background work on the situation to the point where they're comfortable acquiring him. Okay, that's what Jeremy Fowler wrote in ESPN. Seattle checked in on the situation. Most people I talked to don't expect the Seahawks to be in the mix. Philly was interested last year, but they got the sense he didn't want to go there. The guy's got a no-trade clause.
Which is a pretty big deal. Like, for as much as we're talking, he does control the situation because he can say no to any team. Now, part of it is, like, they're going to allow him to talk. One thing the Carolina Panthers have going for them that I would say is different even than the Saints or even the Browns, the Browns, because they were shittier this year, the 13th overall pick. The Carolina Panthers have the 6th overall pick. And part of trading Deshaun Watson to any of these teams, I think you'd have to assume they're going to be in the playoffs next year. Even if it's a one-and-done situation, that's pick 22, right? Or 21 or 23. So a huge part of my trade, I would want, if I'm the Texans, I want to push him toward Carolina, right? Because I truly don't give a shit where he goes. Like, I think there's only one team off limits that would be in the quarterback market, would be like, you would just not trade him to Indianapolis under no circumstances. Do you agree? Like, I can't do a divisional trade with a guy this good that plays quarterback. Not when I have other options. I think it's 100% off the table.
Yeah,
You're not as big a believer in division.
Not when I know. I think it'd be really hard when you know he's about to come back and play. It's one thing if you're like 50-50 he ever plays again. He could get indicted and go to jail. Let's send him to the Colts for 3-1s if that's what was being offered. But that's not the way the situation looks right now. So I think there's something to that.
I do not think you can trade great players in the division.
To me, there's a difference. Yeah, I mean, to me, there's just a difference in compensation. Like, it's like everything else. It's just, what does it cost? How much am I giving up by trading him to the Colts? The Colts offering me 3-1s and the Panthers are offering me nothing, right?
And the reality is the Colts are a moot point. They don't even have a 1. So to me, they're not.
Yeah, no, understood. But I'm just saying, generally speaking, these things are always kind of relative, I think. And for the most part, they're probably all kind of close. You're not often in that situation, right, where someone's offering you 4-1s and no one else is even offering you 3. So I'm with you in that. Yeah, I'm with you there.
I do think if you're the Texans, you desperately want to try to get him to Carolina because part of this is you're going to rebuild with these picks. You immediately get the 6th pick. That means by the time the 6th pick happens, you've had 2 picks. You can really restart your franchise with 2 top 6 players. And it's not quite the pressure of drafting 1. Like, they get to draft 3, so you could just take, like, Kyle Hamilton and some sweet offensive linemen. And boom, you just get a core of 2 really good players. You get rid of them, you get rid of the money, and you can use the money now. But again, like, it's going to be on him where to go, and who the fuck knows? I know, let's be real. We haven't heard this guy talk, or really his opinions now, in a long time. Like, he's kind of been... Deshaun? He hasn't been out of sight, out of mind because his name has been, but we don't see this guy interact. Like, I've lost touch with the human being. Like, I got a good feel for Lamar Jackson. I got a good feel for Mahomes and Josh Allen. I got no feel for this guy anymore. Is he scarred over the situation? Is he going to come back just acting normal? I don't know.
I do think that's where Carolina, if I were him, even though it's like, all right, their offensive line sucks. I don't really know if their head coach is somebody, I don't know if he has a relationship with Matt Rule. Maybe Matt probably didn't recruit him once upon a time, but Matt was coaching at like Temple when Deshaun Watson was going to, Clemson. But it is 2.5 hours from Clemson. Like, maybe there's something to be said for go back to an area where some people where people, have rooted for you in the past. I don't know. Maybe that's
he's from Georgia. So it's, that area.
Charlotte is 2 hours from Clemson. So, McCaffrey, I would imagine if you're Carolina, you'd be more inclined to keep McCaffrey around, which would be an attractive thing for Deshaun. But yeah, I think you said it earlier. The other part of it is the timeline on Garoppolo. It worked out for teams in this boat that are interested in Deshaun. They just happened to have this hearing last Friday, and maybe what would have happened if the Deshaun thing was in 2 Fridays and teams are trying to figure out, do we want Garoppolo? Do we not want Garoppolo? If you're Carolina, do you want Garoppolo? Do you not want Garoppolo? If you're the Colts, do you want Garoppolo? Would you rather wait on Deshaun and then maybe miss out on Garoppolo and end up with nothing?
But this gets back to guys, you got to do deals. Like
my point is that's not the hypothetical. Deshaun thing happened, and now teams have a much clearer picture, and they know that the Niners need to move Garoppolo in the next 3 days.
Yeah, I think Deshaun got a little lucky on just the timing of it, that it happened last Friday and not next Friday, because the amount of money changing hands over the next 48 hours, like, you just run out of cap space. No one leaves.
But what if he just wanted to go to Carolina and they were like, we can't wait, we got to go get Jimmy Garoppolo?
Yeah,
but that's not happening anymore.
Jimmy is a no trade too, but they're in different situations because ultimately Jimmy wants to make $27 million next year, and
right.
He can facilitate it, where Deshaun's making his money no matter what. And I think a lot of teams would look at it like, we got him on a pretty good deal, right? He's under a team. We can pay him $35 million for the next couple years. Like, that is very, very team friendly when Matt Stafford's about to make 48 and Rodgers about to make 50.
There's going to have to be a renegotiation. He's under contract for 4 more seasons at 35, 20, 32, and 32.
Yeah, I'd say part of it is like, Deshaun, let's just see if you can stay on the straight and narrow on that. Like, there's no negotiation for a couple years.
No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In a couple years, it honestly might be after this year when he goes from 35 to 20. But whatever, that's another day's conversation. I just think what I'm trying to get at is a conversation about the timeline on Garoppolo's trade now, right? Because now that Deshaun is a little clear, I'm not calling it clear, but a little clear, and teams can move quicker on him, it means that once that gets settled, operating with the assumption that Deshaun would happen before Jimmy, but it may not necessarily be that way, right? A team might know right now today Deshaun has said he doesn't want to come to us, or / we don't want Deshaun, and so we're out. Deshaun has nothing to do with Jimmy. But, I would even say those 2 markets are very different, right? Like, Deshaun goes for a 1-1 or 4 1s. Like, he was not going for 1-1. So,
I still do think 2 teams. A reporter said this, so it doesn't mean the team said this, but a reporter that covers Pittsburgh said they're out. Right?
On Deshaun.
So if that's true, and Indy is not an option because it's not, those 2 teams would be Jimmy destination still. And the Saints, who I think are an option, they are clearly trying to get Deshaun first, right? Jimmy would be their fallback. So they're all in on trying to make this trade, and they need him to say yes, right? And then they'll just do whatever it takes to fit him under the cap and get him there. But I think that it would not shock me if tomorrow, on Monday, or Tuesday, Jimmy Garoppolo is traded to the Colts or the Steelers, these other teams, specifically Carolina and New Orleans, I think you could include Carolina too, that they would, if they can't have Deshaun, like Jimmy is way better than Sam Darnold, they will wait to see what happens with Deshaun before he goes there. But if you told me tomorrow at lunchtime Jimmy Garoppolo is traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for like a third and a contingent second or whatever the fucking compensation is, very believable, right?
Yeah.
Now, but I'm also of the belief, like, I don't know for sure that the Steelers aren't sniffing around on Deshaun. They'd not be doing their job too, unless, one story was the Eagles last year sent a detective, not like an actual detective, but like a Ray Donovan level detective, down to Houston to just get some, like, I think several teams, if you're worth your salt, have done stuff like that. They've sent people down, to do a little recon just to gather, like, what are we really dealing with here? And I've said this over and over. The league people I've talked to, no one knows for sure. The only people that know are Deshaun and the 22 chicks. But I think one thing he's told people, and clearly the vibe was, he's not a huge party guy, and he used this to have sex. Like, it was like I get a massage, and then I would have sex consensually with all these chicks. And clearly, whether they're, who knows? I don't.
You're just saying that was
his
his explanation. Understood. Yeah.
And that's what I think a lot of people in the league think. But it doesn't really matter what they think until it goes away or it doesn't go away. Because if ultimately it was charged, or ultimately these people start suing and he starts paying them to go away, then there's just an added variable there that, like, that is one thing. Like, Jimmy has red flags physically. I mean, he's hurt right now. He does not have any question marks with, you got to worry about him getting in any trouble. I mean, the craziest thing he ever did was take a porn star out, and, like, let's face it, he's by no means
on a date, which is a pretty crazy thing to do. Not young. Crazy like crazy. Now, that's insane. Just like, man, how did he think that wouldn't get attention? Crazy in that way. A harmless crazy.
And I don't know if he was quite ready for the TMZ that was going to.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
But I guess my point is, like, he is by no means the first and won't be the last professional athlete to take out a porn chick.
Of course not. I'm saying what was crazy is to, like, try to do it under the radar, but not at all succeed at trying to do it under the radar. Ideally,
no one actually cares. You just don't want your quarterback. You don't want your quarterback involved in anything, right? You just don't want him involved in anything. Right? Even the Chiefs, who love Patrick, I do think it wears them out a little bit, the brother and the wife. But that's not even Patrick, right? Even though it kind of is, but it's like, the brother definitely is not. The wife, like, he did choose to marry her. They got married yesterday and look happy. But it's a constant something. I'd say Josh Allen and even Lamar, I mean, are just pretty, nothing has ever happened since they've been in the league. It's just nice. You just want. And Jimmy,
well, another team as it relates to Jimmy that, Arians called Deshaun a organizational
untouchable.
Well, he didn't say untouchable. He just said that's an organizational decision, which means the Glazers would have to sign off on that, right? Chris Greer has said the Dolphins are not interested. Saying it's an organizational decision, maybe that was true. Maybe it wouldn't have been true. Maybe he was saying that when he thought Tom might still come back. Maybe he didn't know. But one thing is clear, Tom's return absolutely eliminates the Bucs, and it just creates another. There is a domino on Garoppolo when Tom Brady returns. That is one team that needed a quarterback that is definitively not getting Deshaun Watson, that could push him to another team that would be interested in Jimmy Garoppolo. So,
yeah.
But the bottom line is Monday, Tuesday. Doesn't it feel like Wednesday would be too late for a Garoppolo trade?
Yes, to me, Jimmy Garoppolo's trade in the next 48 hours.
So, as we say this Monday night, like
I would say this from an NFC standpoint, if the Saints were to get Deshaun, again, unknown coach how he'd be, but their team on paper would look pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they went now.
Michael Thomas is back.
He's back, yeah.
Like he's back
in theory. Yeah, you think?
14-minute drive, Jimmy is the best. That from the comment section. It really was a good Garoppolo. 14-minute Garoppolo drive.
Oh. What do you think? 9 runs.
9 runs.
Screens.
I mean, you could get to the
2
grocery
screens
store,
and a couple slants.
not use self-checkout, buy a few items, and get back before the drive ended, depending on how close you are to a grocery store. Like, that's go down to the corner gas station liquor store. That's pretty impressive.
Hey, self-checkout always throws me off with the, like, bananas or something. It's like, how do I do this?
What's the code? I love self-checkout. Well, real quick, John, before we get on to the next discussion, because Marmar on the stream asked this, how's the size of your Buck Mason hoodies? Big, small? I would say, well, first of all, I think they fit well. I would say order the size. You don't need to go bigger, right? Would you agree with that? I think they fit well.
I have mediums on, and they fit really good. And I'm like, almost 5'10", fluctuate weight. I'd say about low 180s.
Sometimes you have to go bigger, though, right? And I would say it's not going to be too tight if you order your normal size. I think it's what people are usually concerned about. Like, I'm usually a large. If I order a large in some T-shirts, that whatever can be tight.
Yeah.
I would say on the hoodie, just order your normal size. The beauty of Buck Mason, by the way, they have a 365-day return period. Which, if those pants you bought had 365, I wouldn't be wearing them, but they didn't fit John and he gave them to me. So, because he couldn't return them.
I don't know. You know what I started to do? Yeah, I just haven't had to do it because I usually buy the right size. I started having people taper my pants. My guy, he's like, "Yeah, I'll taper my pants." I'm like,
that's what I did with the pants you gave me.
I know, because I never. But those pants, I got the right size. They weren't gonna work.
Yeah.
No, but I just don't. I just try to get the right size. If I can't, I usually don't. But that's the taper, especially the calf area. That's a easy move.
Clean. It's a clean look. So anyway, I would say, like, to your point, the sleeve, I think it's not too baggy. It's good. It's not going to look sloppy, but it's not going to be super tight. So, all right. Hit that. If you're watching the YouTube, hit that like button. If you're here hanging, it's great to have you guys live Sunday. This is going to be a big week of content, by the way, we expect. So I didn't tell John this, but the plan is to go live for the entire first round of the NCAA tournament on Thursday.
What time's tip-off? 9?
I really want to make sure we're here for the 16-1 games. Is it 9?
But the 16-1 game, they always throw like either late at night or like in a random time. Because the best games are usually like the 10-7s, the 12-4s, or 12-5s or whatever, right?
There were some, by the way, before we get back to football, incredible games this weekend. Wasn't almost every game. SEC title game was not good, but a lot of games are really good. I watched Davidson Richmond today, was incredible.
UCLA-Arizona game was good. A lot of the SEC games were good.
UCLA-Arizona was great. The Big Ten game today was pretty good. The Iowa-Purdue game.
Who won
solid?
That?
Iowa.
I think. What do you think about putting a little sleeper on Illinois?
Illinois in Arizona's bracket, who has beaten them. I don't hate that though.
Could we get, especially if we can get Illinois like 20-1 or something?
Kofi Coburn, MOP.
We know your name's Cockburn.
I don't hate that, John. I don't hate that.
Was Nance doing the Big Ten game?
Yes.
I felt like Nance is like, I'm here. I'd rather be doing golf, and I like doing the NCAA tournament, but conference championships, like, I'm a little too big time to do it. But, he kind of makes it sound like, does he really want to be there, conference championship? Probably the lowest level thing he does. Not necessarily, like, he gets bullshit with Izzo or whatever, but he does the NCAA tournament. He does NFL.
And his NFL games rarely are bad.
Yeah. Now he gets to do, the conference tournament, Big Ten is not nothing. I'm not trying to poo-poo it, but
I think it's one of those, once you're in there, it probably feels like, okay, this is cool, right? Because the crowd's incredible.
Yeah. Those teams travel well. Right?
Really well. So, Chandler Jones to the Bay. Says no. Niner by nature, 88. I saw somebody said, was it Albright going to Denver? Maybe Ben Albright was tweeting about it.
One thing I heard about Chandler Jones is that, because I asked, remember we were talking about it the other day. He had 10 sacks on the season, but he had 5 in the one game.
Yeah.
And he can pick his spots, but when he does want to play, he's still one of the best guys. But he's just, if you get him, if he's motivated and he's still an elite guy, but he did not play like that all season. Like, he just goes through the motions. I'm like, well, whenever he plays the 49ers, he's fucking bringing it.
Well, it's kind of the old rap on Jadeveon, who, by the way, was a pretty good free agent signing, right?
This guy's better than Clowney, though.
He's a bit, yeah. But I just mean isn't that the conversation with Jadeveon?
I think this guy is even a different tier. Like, Clowney's in his own little world.
I meant more just like it's an effort. Like in the bit, like if I told you get Jadeveon for 16 games, or maybe what you're saying is if you get Chandler for 17 games, you're not going to get the end stats. If you end up in the conference championship game or the playoffs, you're going to get a badass pass rusher in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. It felt like Clowney fell off once he started getting banged up. Remember, because he had microfracture surgery?
Hey guys, Sam says, quick thought. Khalil Mack still have 1 or 2 elite seasons in him. I mean, if he's healthy, I would say yes. He's got a foot terrifies me, foot injury. But I mean, he's going to be playing on the other side of Joey Bosa, so I think he absolutely does have elite seasons left in him on turf now. If he's healthy, faster than playing
I think that's
8-foot grass.
I think that trade and the Denver trade are so far the easiest 2 trades that any teams have made so far. Like what, Khalil Mack 2nd round pick, done. It's like both deals. I guess you have no choice but to make them. If you're like, hey, you're offering us the best pick, okay, deal's done. We'll email you the pick right now.
Yeah,
or send them to Roger, or however we do it. Because I bet Denver feels like, God, what's all we had to give up? And I think I would imagine the Chargers feel like that too. You know, the Chargers have like the most cap space, or like one of the most cap space in the league. So like to take like where are you getting a player? Like what are we doing? Like we'd rather have Khalil Mack than use that $17 million on someone else. And the cost is a 2nd round pick, which is not nothing because, I mean, hell, their 2nd round pick last year was Asante's kid, who's pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's like you get really good players in the 2nd round, but I just think you don't have a choice. And part of it, and I think you're going to feel this the next couple of days with Trey, you have to take advantage when the guy's making $5, $6, $7 million, right?
Right.
And the difference is with Herbert and Trey is like, we know Herbert's top 5 quarterback right now. Because if I told you right now the Niners knew Trey Lance was a top 5 quarterback, like if they just knew that for a fact, I think they would do something crazy. They might have packaged more for Khalil Mack, right? Part of it is like, we're still feeling our way out. We got to just have some contingency
or
plans.
trade for a corner or, whatever.
You just do some bold shit.
Real quick, while you're looking for your pen, I just want to mention this too. I just thought it'd be fun to start the week just to show people and say the names of the highest paid free agents from last year. And I actually, before I looked at this list on Spot Track, which I've pulled up on YouTube, where you can see, if you're watching the YouTube, you can see it. I had forgotten about one guy who turned out to be a guy we talked about a lot last year, which I'll get to him in a second. But Trent Williams was the biggest contract signed in free agency last year. Here are some of the other names: Bud Dupree, Joe Thuney, Kenny Galladay,
disaster.
Corey Linsley,
good player.
Yep. Trey Hendrickson, nailed it.
Unreal signing.
Matt Judon,
great signing.
Jonnu Smith, also New England.
Have to ask a Patriot fan.
Carl Lawson for the
Torn
Jets.
Achilles.
William Jackson.
Then
Shaq
it starts
Griffin,
getting iffy now.
Here, my favorite signing from last year that I completely forgot about. See if you can think of it before I get to him. There's a lot of money this year, actually. Wide receiver Nelson Aguilar. You remember that conversation?
No.
How much is Nelson going to get? Man, what a great signing he was for the Raiders. Should the Raiders bring him back? The Patriots signed him. The Patriots owe him this year. Like, I think his cap number this year is actually bigger than it was last year. I can't. Yeah, it is. His cap hit this year is almost $15 million this year. So Nelson Aguilar, John, a name from last year's free agency. That
you know, an underrated part about that, the number 1 name, he almost wasn't a 49er. Remember, he was almost a Chief.
Trent Williams, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the clip going viral about his cancer? How they told him
no,
you might want to tell your kids. He was on the Brandon Marshall's podcast. You could die. Because he's like, am I going to lose my football career over fighting cancer? And they're like, hey, man, football should be the last of your worries. And, I mean, their faces, it was kind of like, damn.
Wow.
It's a legit cancer scare, which he clearly overcame, got rid of, battled, beat.
Follow-up from 6-letter on the stream. Scott Pioli was indeed cryptic of Brady playing in Tampa on NFL Network. Scott is married to Bill Parcells' daughter. Was that what that one is? Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because he was working for he was married to her, but working for Belichick. It was like a weird dynamic. After Belichick left.
Yeah. Well, they had their breakup with the Jets when he turned Parcells down, remember? And he quit, but then he went to the Patriots. And then
Parcells retired on him and forced him to become the head coach.
Yeah, and he's like, fuck you, I'm out. But then Kraft, mortal enemy of Parcells, had to negotiate a trade for Belichick. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep. Great part of the Wickersham book. All right, John, moving on. You mentioned this, so let's talk about Trey Lance. Are the 49ers done with quarterback signings? Jeremy Fowler deep in one of his stories, while he also wrote that Marcus Mariota is the name he keeps hearing the most for the Colts, that a weird little passage that Mariota could be a backup for the Niners and could start games for the Niners while they develop Trey Lance. Now, while that part of it sounds a little unbelievable, here is what I think relevant. Signing Nate Sudfeld doesn't lock the Niners into anything in terms of if they want to sign another quarterback. Sudfeld's making $2 million guaranteed. Trey's making 7.7. So in their quarterback room, and you always like to talk about it this way, in their quarterback room, the Niners have $9.7 million of quarterbacks. Does that, in your opinion, keep them from doing something else if they wanted to do something else? Signing Marcus Mariota as an example?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if they sign Mariota for five, last year, remember, Mariota went from making 7.5 to 3. Feels like if you could get him for $3 million, I have no problem doing that. I do question if you got to spend 5-6 on Mariota, why would you give Sudfeld $2 million?
I know.
I think people question, like, Sudfeld has a lot of value with the coach. The offensive play caller, which has been Doug Peterson and Kyle Shanahan, love this guy. No one thinks he's a good player, but those guys value whatever the hell he brings. You and I have seen him at practice. If you didn't know anything about him, you would think he was just a camp arm or something. He's kind of a clumsy, tall. It doesn't really look the part, but the Niners value him, which to me, you can never have enough quarterbacks. I would not feel comfortable with Nate Sudfeld as my backup quarterback. I would just not. Because a couple years ago, when Nate Sudfeld, I think, became famous, he was not the Eagles' backup, remember? They drafted Jalen Hurts, who was the backup. He was the third-string quarterback when they thought Doug was throwing that game, week 17. If you're going to be the third-string quarterback, I don't hate it, but, like, you got to pay your third-string quarterback $2 million? It's, again, we're nitpicking here. You want to spend $5 million on Mariota, like you said, that would be $13 million total. I'm bad at math. $14 million total in your quarterback room. It's nothing. I get it. But are you just kind of wasting $2 million?
Well, yeah. I mean, the counter would be, I'm not wasting $2 million if I think this guy is a big part of, I got Greasy in here. Now I got Sudfeld in here. I think he's important for Trey. Like that, to me, would be the number one way you justify it. I don't know if they do it that way, but that would be how you justify it. It's like, this is a $2 million investment in Trey Lance.
Do you remember when Bill O'Brien got the job, I think last year at Alabama, and Mac Jones was still staying there working out? He was teaching Bill O'Brien the offense. Like, there is something just like the Niners have had a lot of moving parts with coaching staff. Clearly this guy's really smart, Nate Sudfeld. I think he hangs his hat on being like, love him in the room, It's not crazy. So is there a $1 million extra? Like he's a $1 million player. Like that's just once you get 5th, 6th year in the league, quarterback. Like that's his value. Like that's just what he costs. The extra $1 million for just your comfort level, knowing that like I got to do other shit. You stay with Greasy. You guys get on the same page. You and what's that guy's name? Bobby Slowick. Some of these up and coming next McDaniels and LaFleur. I get it, but that has to be the explanation. Not that you think he's a good player, because he's not a good player. If that's your explanation, I'm cool with it. Outside theory just hit me. Could Kyle be groomed? Is Sudfeld going to be like Kyle's run game coordinator in 4 years? Don't hate that theory either.
And it's just part of like, hey, I'm starting to lose coaches here on offense. Let's just keep this guy close. Eventually, he's going to be the run game coordinator for Trey, or he'll be Trey's maybe not.
People think very, very highly of this guy. Like I know the type guy Doug likes. Right when he was in Philly or Howie, like they value this guy's intelligence and stuff. Like he does bring something to the table. It just feels like paying $1 million for it seems a little nuts.
Shills on the stream says
1.5.
Sudfeld Lance is the worst QB tandem in football.
It's not great on paper.
You're right. Was somebody else making him the backup for 1.5?
Well, I think they had to tender him, and then they just signed him, so they didn't have to worry about it. Again, we'll see. The more and more I talk about this, I think you have to get help. Trubisky, can you get a $3-4 million guy also in the room that can play?
Is Mariota going to only cost $4 million? That's the other part.
Remember, we thought it was nuts. He took $3 million last year, 2.5.
That's true. We did think that was nuts.
Are we sure that Trubisky has this huge market that Adam Schefter, who I like, is trying to make? Maybe there's no market there for him.
What number would surprise you on Trubisky? Or would seem
3?
Yeah,
he made 3. What changed?
So him making 5, like him getting a raise, you're saying is what?
No, but I can pay. Okay, Trubisky. Inflation. This cap's gone up $5 million. I could do that.
Okay, but 7 would you go? Wait, why?
Well, then we start getting into numbers like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, especially like you can't pay him $7 to be the backup on a team that has a good quarterback. So he's going to be a starter.
Okay, if like the Giants, who have been reported, they want him to compete, Dayball knows him, with Daniel Jones, they gave him like $9-10 million. Daniel Jones, a top 6 pick, he doesn't make that. I could see that, right? So it's like, yeah, he might be our starter, he might be on our backup. I got the guy for triple what he just made. That type situation would make some sense.
Yeah.
Or the Saints, bring in like 3 guys, he's one of them.
Here's a comment from the comments that leads us right to our next topic. Mr. Corey on the stream says Jennifer Lee Chan says the Niners aren't re-signing Laken Tomlinson, Tart, K'Wan Williams, or DJ Jones. Let's start with Tomlinson because that is you have to replace that. I mean, I would put on the list. I think DJ Jones might be at the top of my list of the Niners free agents that you'd want back, but he's also going to be expensive because he's a good player. Arden Key, maybe they can't pick both of them, John. But Tomlinson plays offensive line on a team that's about to have a, air quotes, rookie quarterback starting.
Yeah, there's a simple way to build your team that if you wanted to, I don't want to say overspend, but like be aggressive to keep a defensive lineman, I get it. They're hard to find. The Niners don't have a high pick this year in a draft full of defensive linemen. I just can't be paying a 31-year-old guy that I once resurrected and got off the scrap heap a competitive number at $10, $11, $12 million a year. Part of doing business in the NFL is, at the highest level, it's cutting guys like Bobby Wagner. But on the most basic level, it's
not
finding guys. Yeah, that's
without a phone call.
But finding guys on the waiver wire or, that are street free agents, signing them for not much money, having them, I think Laken Tomlinson, if I remember correctly, was a relatively high pick. So you get a guy that you see value in, and you're able to put him in the scheme. Let's see what he was. He was a first-round pick. So I would imagine there were people in the 49ers building, whether it was just simply Kyle or whoever, McDaniel, that really liked the guy coming out of college. So once you get your hands on him, you're like, we knew we could work with him. And they did. And he was an excellent starter for them for years at left guard. And ultimately this year he made the Pro Bowl. To me, I think he's a really good starter. But part of when a guy like this, when really good starters hit free agency, which let's face it, they're the only guys that hit free agency because like stars, like Quentin Nelson is never hitting free agency. Trent Williams only hit free agency because of the way they had to like give the trade. They weren't allowed to franchise him, right? The Niners never would have risked that if they didn't have to because they almost lost him. They ultimately had to give him $60 million, and they would have probably given him $60 million anyway, but they would have franchised him first and then given him $60 million. Really good players you let hit free agency. At guard, at corner, I could see it. At wide receiver, like if Brandon Ayuk, but again, you're signing these guys early. You let this guy walk. You do not re-sign him. And listen, we don't know if he's going to be any good. The NFL is all about how you allocate your resources. They did allocate a second-round pick on a guard.
Right.
Now, ultimately, he might not be worth it. He's got to play. He just does. Like, if that guy's not playing next year, like let's just say he's a backup, that's a disastrous pick. A guard? Like, I think he 100% has to start next year. Like
Aaron Banks.
Period, point blank. Starting guard. Left or right. But
he has to start. Like, to me, if Trey Lance is your quarterback, Aaron Banks has to start. If he doesn't start, it's a failure. I agree with you there. I'm not starting him because he's Aaron Banks if he can't beat out whoever my other guard is in camp. I'm not messing
100%. But
yeah,
no,
okay.
but then,
I'm just
then
making sure on the
disaster.
same page.
But I think in their mind, they had to like this guy a lot to draft him in the second round. Right. You would think that I think it's fair to say that maybe he's penciled in on Kyle's whiteboard as a starter.
He's not like some project who barely played in college, right?
Fucking from Notre Dame. Now, I think you could argue, and my friends did that, like, I don't know if I see the fit, the scheme. He played in a power scheme. Obviously, what the 49ers do is much more kind of, it's a zone-based scheme. You're just running a lot, so they love athletes, which I think Laken Tomlinson fit into that. Where this guy, the knock on him was like, he's a big, powerful guy. And one thing I John and those guys have talked about was just like getting him in the right shape. They feel it can translate. But they're going to have to see. Like, you're going to have to take a swing with him. I just can't be paying guards that much money. listen, this is not ideal, but it's a situation they're in. McGlinchey's coming off a rip quad or whatever, torn hamstring. He's playing on his fifth-year option, and a fifth-year option is like the poor man's franchise tag. It's $10.8 million, and that 10.8, like, you're paying him that. So you have your two tackles are $30 million. You're allocating a lot of resources,
right,
as you should with Trent, but is McGlinchey a $10.8 million player? I mean, he better pick it up.
Well, and the other thing is you were already paying Laken Tomlinson, I think, 6, right? So there's a natural raise, even if it's on the low end of what he would get paid, which is, I think PFF projected like $11 million a year, $35 million. But like you said, once you hit
all it takes a couple teams, and that, remember Jet McKinnon, people are like, he's just a serviceable backup. Then all of a sudden, like the Niners and the Jets, and then all of a sudden they were giving him like $8-9 million a year at running back. People were like, what are they doing? And I remember talking to the Niners guys about it. They're like, what? Ideally, do you want to do this? But when there's 3 other people bidding on him, and it's like Kyle's like, I want Jet, Well, all it takes is Doug Peterson, like, I want Tomlinson protecting what's his name, Trevor Lawrence, who was at the golf tournament all weekend, and then 2 other teams are bidding for his services, and all of a sudden, the first year of Laken's deal, he's making 14, right? I think he's gone.
Well, I agree. You have, even with Jimmy's money available, this would not qualify as the big swings that we talked about the other day. You drafted a guard because you were expecting this to happen. This is going according to when Laken Tomlinson leaves. Yeah, when Laken Tomlinson leaves, that's called going. It's going according to plan. This is part of the plan when you draft a second-round guard last year. Now you also need a center, right?
I read somewhere that he might come back.
Alex Mack might come back.
Can we work on those shotgun snaps?
Yeah, well, Trey's athletic. He's big.
I would expect one of their high picks, either a second-round pick or one of their third-round picks, to be on a guard/center. Wouldn't you? Like, one thing Kyle has been pretty
I think a third-round center, like, you draft a third-round center, you think that guy's going to start.
Hell yeah. I mean,
like
undrafted free agents sometimes start. 6th-round centers start.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I'll give Kyle credit on this for being an offensive guy.
First-year starter, quarterback?
Kyle drafts, but this is just part of the league.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Kyle drafts.
A lot of big heavies. Like he likes drafting, what we find kind of boring, D tackles and offensive linemen.
Speak for yourself, John. That is right up my alley.
You were the one that brought it up.
Day 3 of interior linemen is what I live for. Bag of Cheetos and a big gulp. Don't bother me. I'm watching the draft. Road graders. Okay. Mama's favorite. That's what I call big linemen. Mama's favorite.
There's a guy in this draft, a lineman. His nickname is Beef Jerky.
Is that part of an NIL deal?
No, it was just like he's like, I don't know, he's a beef
like
jerky.
Kool-Aid. Remember Kool-Aid?
No, I don't. Who's Kool-Aid?
Was it Quincy McGinstry or whatever that guy's name is? From Alabama, I think. But he changed his name to Kool-Aid, and I think got an NIL deal. Kool-Aid McKinstry, DB. I mean, he was freshman All SEC.
You're talking about he's a recruit. He's like playing at Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah, he just he's coming.
I thought you meant
year.
I thought you meant in the draft.
Oh, sorry, no.
Yeah.
Beef jerky. Who is beef jerky?
You see the Stuart Mandel story that some kid in high school got an $8 million contract? How's that possible?
Well, I mean, he got so Tennessee's. I didn't read the whole story, but they're like all these teams have collectives now, which is like third parties that just they get all the sponsorship dollars in one place, and then they do deals with the kids. It's like, oh yeah, you'll do some, I'm doing air quotes, appearances as
for
part of your
$8 million?
business agreement. Well, it's worth up to, I think it's like $2 million. But if he's there 4 years and they keep re-upping it, it could be worth $8 million.
Isn't it a California quarterback?
Is it? Is that the kid that was going to Oregon? Is that who it was?
Well, I just saw that it's a California guy because he's not allowed to say the name, right? He didn't report the player, but he's like, it's pretty easy to figure this out. Just look at the high rankings, and the number 2 guy in the country was a California quarterback.
Because he got the information. Because I saw now that makes sense. Because I saw somebody else tweet, like Thamler, one of those guys, like, just a hypothetical. Let's say you're a California kid who's about to go to Oregon, and then Tennessee swoops in and blah blah blah. Do you have an NCAA violation? Okay, that makes sense now.
It feels like they're getting to a little bit of a slippery slope with this. Well,
the rule says it can't be inducement. That's the NCAA rule. Like, I can't get you to come to my school for the NIL deal, which is the dumbest. I mean, okay, good luck. Did you see LSU fired his basketball coach finally?
Well, I thought they were terrible. Then I looked, they're 6 seed. They're good. Did you see that? I read the article yesterday because I was just kind of bored on my iPad. His wife, he claimed he eventually had to give over his financial records. I mean, he was legitimately cutting checks for players. I don't know who was giving him I don't think like LSU was paying him, but like Booster would give him the money. He cut the check. He claimed that he's like, joint account with my wife. Who knows what she was doing?
I'm not in charge of the finances.
I saw a lot of people were like, wait, it's legal to pay players, and now you're firing Will Wade? Again, Will Wade's not bad, right? I mean, their team is competitive. They make the tournament.
Yeah, good basketball team. Eric on the stream, I'd rather package a 5th and Jimmy for a 3rd rather than trade him for a 4th straight up. But again, who will make a trade if he can't pass physical?
Well, he's not passing a physical. So if he's getting traded, there's no physical pass possible with an arm and a sling. I would not rather do that trade. I would not. You got Richard Sherman went in the 5th. George, you just want to take as many swings as possible.
Yeah, you need volume.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade a 5th, and I'm not pro 5th because the moment you draft a guy in Elijah Mitchell, I remember last year when he was drafted, he actually looked kind of good. You're like, damn, this guy.
Actually, the 5th is the pick the Niners need to keep. With hindsight.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's where they get their players in the 5th and the 6th round.
That's
when Juwan Jennings a 7th round pick.
That's when Kyle leaves it to the scouts.
Feels like they thrive. I mean, half their roster is like 5th, 6th, 7th round picks.
Yeah, I mean, when we go back in time, Elijah was a 6th, Jalen Moore was a 5th, and he played this year.
Yeah,
Talanoa Hufanga was a 5th. Diamador Lenore was a 5th. We'll see. Colton McKivitz was a 5th.
Who scored the block punt? Wasn't it Hufanga?
Hufanga. That's right.
Craig Grant was close.
Dre Greenlaw was a 5th. DJ Reed was a 5th. Trent Taylor and George Kittle were 5th. Ronald Blair was a 5th. Bradley Pinion was a 5th. Aaron Lynch and Dante Johnson were 5ths.
That's bulky.
I know. I'm just going back like the Niners. Quentin Dial was a 5th. The Niners have a long storied history, John. Daniel Kilgore was a 5th. A long storied history of good 5th round picks. Seriously.
No, I mean, well, I think a lot of people do. I just think if you look at, there are a lot of starters in the 5th and 6th round. I wouldn't give up those picks if you don't have to. Now, if you package, like, would I package a 4th to get a 2? Of course, but it's like, if I'm just getting a 4 straight up, the difference in a 3rd. Now, it depends how good that 3rd is. Like, if it's Indy, they miss the playoffs, so it's not nothing. There's a balance to it.
Next up on the stream, Raiders got a discount on Maxx Crosby. I couldn't believe, and you couldn't believe. 4 years, $95 million. Oh, big contract. Guaranteed at signing, $26.5 million.
I think it's one of the most team-friendly deals in the history of the league. And it's just simple. He plays the most important position is quarterback. The second highest paid position guy, literally, like Trent Williams, the best left tackle in the league, got $60 million. How many defensive linemen? Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack 4 years ago got 87 and 90. Now the Bosas, Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa.
Eric Armstead got more guaranteed at signing than this.
I don't understand. And listen, I tend to be pro management. And obviously, if you're a Raider fan, this is a good thing. I think it's insane. I feel for Maxx Crosby, his agent, this is one of the worst deals I've ever seen. Joey Bosa, who is a better player than Maxx Crosby, the moment he signed his contract, I think got $76 million. How possibly could you sign? Like, I'm not saying he should have got $100 million guaranteed and 75 guaranteed at signing. But you would think if Joey's getting 75, a year later, I'm just a Pro Bowl, All-Pro, I'm your best defender. If I told you $90 million, 4 years, $95 million with 52 guaranteed at signing,
my guess was going to be 50. That would have made sense to me. And you would have said that's expensive, but he's a really good player. It's not crazy.
Didn't you tell me that a former Raider draft pick got more the moment he signed his contract?
Now, Cleveland Farrell's contract was only worth like $38 million, but his guaranteed at signing when he got drafted, his rookie deal was $31 million. Now, it's hard. You can't really compare Maxx to but $31 million at signing is what Cleveland Farrell's rookie deal was.
So Nick Bosa obviously got more guaranteed the moment he signed the contract, right?
Right.
But to me, that is, I just think the nature of the sport and how violent it is, especially if you're a guy in the trenches, that the amount of true guarantees, like if something happened to you tomorrow, how much do you get when you sign the contract is so important. Like ultimately, Joey Bosa, the moment he signed his contract, got $75 million. Or, they put it in escrow, whatever.
Yeah, 78.
How's that possible, guy? I think his agent deserves to be fired immediately.
Myles Garrett got 43
at signing,
which is low, right?
Very team friendly.
His quote unquote practical guarantees though were $100 million. Like the practical guarantees on Max's contract are like 53, 52.
Well, that's the other thing. Those guys like Bosa and Myles Garrett, I mean, obviously, Max's going to be on the team, you would think, a couple years unless he has a devastating injury. They're really just tied for the $50 million. These other guys were doubling the amount of money. So, again, I don't think he's a $100 million player, but if you're Maxx, wouldn't you say like 70? Like 70% of them? Like, I was a Pro Bowl, All-Pro. I'm your best defender. Why am I doing you a favor? Because the only numbers that truly matter in the NFL are those guaranteed dollars. People are like, well, he was better. What about Bosa? Nick Bosa, like his numbers are going to be, he's going to be the highest paid defensive end of all time whenever he signs his contract. But I think the crazy part is, and I'm not saying Maxx should have been that, but Maxx should have been like, part of it is just the value I have, the position I play. When I looked, because I immediately Googled like Kamara and Dalvin because I remember they signed last year. Both those two guys got more money. Now, both of them are Pro Bowl, All-Pro for several years, but they're running backs. I play defensive end. I am Malibu property. Those guys are proven like replaceable. I'm not. I think it's. Listen. I thought it was insane.
Trey Flowers got more.
Who actually just got cut, I think.
40 million guaranteed at signing and 56 practical guarantees was his numbers.
Now, I think the Raider management pushback would be, for example, Trey Flowers. Hit free agency, right? We're extending this guy a year early on his contract. I'd say, well, yeah, I mean, okay. So look at the guys that got extended. They were paid so much money. Khalil, Aaron Donald. Like, I think his agents did a huge disservice. Terrible. I can't see a lot of agents, the heavy hitters with a defensive end, would have laughed at this deal. Okay, because I'm kind of doing a shorter deal because the overall money's 90. Even if I live out the contract, these other guys got like 140s and 150s. You're putting me under 100 just to begin with.
Also, we clearly wasn't, I don't know, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't willing to hold out. Like, I expect Nick Bosa's holdout to be coming.
You expect him to hold out?
Well, I expect Nick is not, you're not getting any hometown discount, Nick Bosa. No. Like, he's either getting everything he wants or he's holding out. I shouldn't say I expect him to hold out, but
my point is hometown discounts on pass rushers just don't happen. Like, if you look at,
no, that's true.
If I'm going to look at TJ, who went into the Roonies and said, I'm ready, he got, the moment he signed, he got $80 million guaranteed. So obviously that's $30 million more. Now, TJ is a better player than Maxx. But still, like, these are huge gaps. And there's also time, right? He signed it last year. We're a year, like every year that goes by, the number goes up. Because why? The cap goes up. He got $35 million the moment he signed it. You could argue, like, okay, if you're Maxx, like $42 million? Like, I just don't understand it. If you're a Raider fan, I'd be happy. You got your guy really cheap, and if something happens, you get out of it. Basically like a 2-year deal. Doesn't really screw you.
I think it's also just the Derek Carr situation has to play itself out. We'll see what happens, but this was not a team. New organization's biggest decision so far. Ziegler, right? Biggest decision so far. As remember, we did the interview. We had Parag Marathe on the podcast a few years ago, and one of his things was we don't want to win a deal. We want a fair deal for us. We want the player and the player's agent to be happy. We're not trying to burn any bridges here. But the Raiders just won a deal, right? So just keep that in mind when we talk about what is Derek Carr going to get paid, how much are they going to want to pay him, what is he going to want from them.
I just pulled up Crosby's contract. This year he was going to be on the team no matter what, whether he extended or not, right? The following year they could have franchised him. I'm just saying if he refused to sign or whatever. With the extension, this year he's going to make $16 million. His dead cap, he's obviously going nowhere. Next year, his dead cap's like $20 million. Cap hit $20 million. If he's a Pro Bowl guy, he'll be on the team the next year. They could get out in 24 because his dead cap is 7.8. So by the time 24, the salary cap could be $250 million. Wow. Because their true out is 25, where they can get out for basically nothing. But they really could get out in 24.
So which is year 2 of the contract.
Yeah, but because, he signed an extension, so technically, like, he gets a bunch of money now.
Right.
Which, again, I think they use that. This is where the good agents, it's like, okay, well, you're going to keep me, but it's just the going rate. I can still give you somewhat of a discount. This feels like one of the best deals in the NFL if he maintains just being a Pro Bowl level guy. They got him for cheap per year, but to me, it's the guaranteed money. They're just not tied for long. Like the Niners, the moment they signed Bosa, what would you say they'll tie it for? Minimum 4 more years?
4 years. Yeah, I think it'll be 4 years because I would imagine like year 1 might be kind of low in terms of the cap number, right?
You're saying for the Raiders?
Well, no, I was going to say for the Niners. Like to me, year 3 will be the cap number on Nick Bosa, where it's like his cap number is $50 million this year.
Well, what would you guess Crosby's cap number is this year?
Like 6.
6'6". That's the crazy part. It's like this guy just signed $100 million contract, and his cap number is $4.7 million.
So the cap
that's all the cap is. Just credit.
Cap guys are important. We were going to talk about a few other things, but I think we've packed in a lot today. We're going to talk about like the Lakers show. I actually do want to talk about it, but should we save that for another time?
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Okay.
Let's wait till after free.
NCAA tournament starts this week.
It's only one episode, right? You can't.
Yeah, I've only seen one. Yep.
Okay.
Amari Cooper, a 5th and a 6th to the Browns. The Browns have told Jarvis Landry he has permission to seek a trade, John, with $14 million due him this year. He had 52 catches in 12 games last year.
Yeah, prediction: slot receivers are getting $14 million.
Quick prediction on after Amari to the Browns for a 5th and a 6th. Will Baker Mayfield be the opening day starter for the Browns this year?
Yes.
I'm beginning to think
reluctantly, but I think they're
reluctantly for the Browns.
Yeah, I think they're stuck.
All right. Anything else we needed to get in today that we missed?
I don't know. Irony is the right word, but Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper got traded in like basically the same weekend. Again, it's obviously they got traded at different times with Gruden.
Does that make Gruden look less bad?
I mean, it doesn't make.
I think it makes him look a little less bad. Yeah. I mean, as it relates to those trades, not as it relates to emails.
Yeah. Doesn't impact it any.
I don't think it really helps him, but there's just a part of it that it's like those guys aren't going to the like Khalil Mack's not. If Khalil Mack goes to the Hall of Fame,
not a lock yet.
What would it have to be as a Charger? Like does he have to do the work now as a Charger? Like how does Khalil Mack get to the which I would have thought, after 2 years
felt like a lock
Raider.
If he can have if he wins a defensive player of the year for the Chargers and they make a playoff run, would Charles go in at? The thing in football, you don't really have to go in, right?
No, good point. But I mean, what is he like? Von Miller, by the time he started getting hurt and tailing off, had already done his work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was the defensive player of the year 3 at 25 years old. You thought, then he was the defense. He was second in the defensive player of the year voting. That first year in Chicago was pretty good.
He dominated, and they were good.
But
one thing Von Miller has going for him,
4-year peak for Khalil Mack.
It's gotten a little weird. Yeah, he needs. I'd say he's got a lot of pressure on him this year to kick ass and take some names. Right? Like, are you still Khalil Mack? Can we stay healthy?
Von's got 2 Super Bowls.
But at least like when I say Von Miller, everyone thinks of a Denver Bronco, and then his story, like the Ram thing. But he's like, he had 8 or 9 years, 7 Pro Bowls or whatever, Super Bowl MVP, Broncos.
Yeah.
Like when Von Miller goes in the Hall of Fame, you'll think Denver Bronco Von Miller.
Yeah.
Because Peyton Manning even kind of like, I was only here a couple years, but goddamn, I loved it.
All right, big week ahead, everybody. If you're watching the YouTube, like the video, podcast in the description. If you're listening to the podcast, check out our YouTubes. We still get a lot of people. I see it in the comments. I get it in DMs. I didn't know what you guys looked like. I hadn't watched you before. We get a lot of that. So it's cool. So if you're listening, just give the YouTube a shot, especially this week where there's going to be, as news breaks, we are there.
Tom Brokaw style.
That's right. We are. This is a
my
90s.
pushback. I didn't know what you guys look like. If you're interested in what any human looks like, it is like when we were kids, I used to listen to Adam Carolla and Loveline, Dr. Drew. Remember in the 90s?
Yeah, you told me
I was always fascinated, like, what do these guys look like? And you had no mode to find out. Like now, anytime it's like, oh, what's this guy's wife's name? And I just type it into Google and I find a picture of her.
Right. What's his net worth?
Yeah. Boom. What's her age? Because I saw Michael Rubin, that dude that runs Fanatics, this picture of him and his girlfriend or wife, and I was like, I just wanted to do a little investigating, so I did.
So you went to WikiFeet? No.
Wiki what?
I've heard there's. I refuse to type it into my Google. I have heard that there is a wiki that's for like people with foot fetishes. I cannot confirm. I would tell you if I Googled it.
Never heard of it.
But
I'm not into feet. I'm not into feet.
I'm certainly not a wiki.
Do you think Rex has?
Rex might run the thing. Anyway.
Welcome back, Tom.
Yeah. On that weird note, we'll end the show. Tom Brady, I can't believe that.
Does that even count as a retirement? Does it count as retirement when it's just February?
It feels weird.
I don't think you count that as retirement. That was a hiatus. I run Wiki.
5 weeks. I still think 5 weeks with the family is an all-time quote.
Yeah.
Like summer vacation is longer, Tom.
I think it would have been interesting to hear, like, if you listen to the audio. Freddie's on his third wife. So, I wouldn't say Freddie's Mr. Family Man,
Yeah.
Now, one, I did a little Wikipedia deep dive on that a couple weeks ago. One did die from breast cancer, I think, for the second one. So I don't know.
Okay.
Because I saw some people making fun. He just recently got married. And people are like, well, fifth time's a charm, one of those. But when one passes away while you're married, I don't know. That's,
that's,
like some, when you see a famous, it wasn't, what's his name that had the show on CNN forever? Larry King had like 6 wives.
Yeah. Maybe more, honestly.
And I think he remarried one, but none of them were passing away. It was like they just got real divorces. Like
right.
that to me, you've got a serial problem.
Yeah. Real quick, last thing before we complete the show today. Day and time of a Jimmy Garoppolo trade. Let's make a note here.
I'll go when we wake up Tuesday morning, like bright and early Tuesday morning.
Give me a time.
Yeah, I'd say 6:45 Eastern, or excuse me, 6:45 Pacific. So like Schefter tweets it out in New York, 9:45 Pacific
Gotcha.
Eastern time.
Gotcha. I'm going to. God, I really want to go Monday, but then Monday's gone too fast. You know what I mean? Tomorrow's Monday. I'm gonna go.
I feel like tomorrow's their power play. Like, no, we're not do this. Like tomorrow's when they really kind of push the envelope, and then by Tuesday it's like, yeah, just kidding, you can take them.
I'm going 11:23 on Tuesday.
Pacific.
We're both going Tuesday. Yeah, 11:20.
I'd rather have that. I just feel like shit happens so early a lot of the times.
9:23 Pacific. 9:23 Pacific.
Or
now Mountain. Daylight savings. Go change your clocks. Thanks for hanging out.
I feel they really kind of like puff their chest out tomorrow. Like play it slow. Like tomorrow's really when they push the pedal on that one. Like, nah, yeah, we're still shopping. So guys, just trade them. Just praying to get like that extra 117th pick,
Does Kyle call do the Niners like third party representative reach out to the Bucks?
I pray to God there's a story in the next 36 hours that I've come. I'm not expecting it though, but yeah. I'm for it.
He said Tampa in the tweet.
Damn it, Thomas.
Hey, Thomas. When the evidence is there in front of you, when somebody refuses to talk about how retired they are when they're retired, then believe them. They're not retired.
No.
All right. On that note, everybody, big week ahead. Thanks for hanging with us. Talk to you soon. Like it. Go get yourself some buckmason.com/ham. Adios, pelota.